This green plastic thing might just be the most valuable plate I own. I have a little tradition that I don't think I've ever talked about before, but with all the economic upheaval these days, it seems like a good time to share this. This is a plastic plate that spends most of its time in my china closet along with the good china. And every once in a while, I pull it down from the shelf and eat my lunch on it. There used to be 4 of these, and this is the only one I've kept. But I keep it for a good reason, to remind me of the day when I moved to California. The day I stepped off the bus 31 years ago from the airport with nothing but a suitcase and $200 and stood on a corner in Pasadena knowing that if I didn't find a job and a place to live in a day or so, I would have to give up and go back home to Colorado. That is, if I could find a way back home. I was 22 and so young that I honestly didn't know how crazy my plan was. The plan to find a job that morning and a place to stay in the afternoon. I bought a newspaper, read the want ads, walked a few blocks to an escrow company, and applied for a job as a receptionist. I did not know, by the way, I didn't even have a clue, the slightest clue, what escrow was. But I did walk out with a job that started the very next day. So I began to walk around the area, looked for an apartment rental, and I found one within walking distance of my new job, about a half a mile away, a tiny little furnished 2-room walk-up managed by a very severe, sort of scary-looking man with one eye named Mr. Vennard, who reminded me of the monosyllabic axe murderer in a horror movie I'd seen once. Well, as intimidating as he seemed, I was even more desperate, so I took a deep breath and explained that I really needed a place to live and that I only had some of the money for the first and last month's rent, but I had just got a job down the street, and here's their number, and they'll tell you that I'm going to get paid next Friday, and I can give you the rest of the money then, and by the way, I'm actually a really nice person. I'm not going to be any trouble, and I promise to pay you, I promise. Well, I waited to see if anything I'd said actually had gotten through. And then slowly Mr. Vennard began to speak. I don't need to call, he said. And with that, he handed me a contract and the keys to my first apartment. I walked in and I looked around and I felt like the queen of the universe. My own refrigerator, a couch and a dining table, a bed and a chest of drawers and a mirror. No towels, no silverware or soap or dishes, but at least now I had a roof over my head and a chance to prove to a stranger that I was going to keep that promise. It took me 3 minutes to unpack my suitcase, and then I sat down on the couch, and suddenly I felt very alone. It was New Year's Eve, the first one I'd ever spent away from home. I was just about ready to start crying from loneliness when the doorbell rang, and standing outside was Mr. Vennard. Oh, old tenants always leave stuff behind. Don't know if you can use any of this. And he handed me an old cardboard box and walked away. I looked inside, and I found a couple of forks, a butter knife, a spoon, an old serving spoon with a green handle, a paring knife, a coffee mug, 2 placemats, and 4 green plastic plates. Well, it took 20 more years to buy the china and the crystal I'd always dreamed of. And if there's an earthquake someday, it'll probably take only 20 seconds to demolish it all. But no matter what happens, an earthquake or a recession or some reversal in fortune, I imagine this plate will survive to remind me that I've seen worse times and survived them, thanks to God and to good folks like the kind and trusting Mr. Vennard. See you soon.